Welcome back, everybody. We are here with another episode of the Fantasy Philosophers. We have wrapped up the NFC, and we're excited to get started with the AFC today. I'm one of your hosts, Dustin, and over here we got my good friend Patrick. We are the Fantasy Philosophers, and if you've been keeping up, we are going through each division in each conference. We just wrapped up the NFC, so we're on the AFC. We're talking about breakout candidates. And these are guys who we think will outperform their current ADP. So potential league winners, some guys who maybe we just see as a value where they're going. We will kind of give you some stats, discuss each one. And, first up in the NFC North, we got the Baltimore Ravens. So, Patrick, if you want to get us started with the Ravens, let's hear what you got, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantasy Philosophers back, AFC edition, breakout candidates. Just want to give a shout out to everyone that supported us as we went through the NFC. So back with that content for y'all. So Baltimore Ravens, breakout candidate, easy. Marquise Brown, simple as that. So he was going pick 85, which is the early 8th, or wide receiver 30. This is a guy who was drafted in the first round coming into the NFL. He came into his rookie season coming off of Liz Frank surgery. And again, I have no credentials in the medical field, but for anyone who knows sports and follows these injuries, it will show you time and time again, with the rare exception, but typically speaking, offensive skill players just do not produce up to what they typically produce that first year back off of that type of surgery. However, on a 59% snap share, he did still receive 71 targets, which maybe it's just me. It surprised me somewhat, just thinking how run heavy that Ravens offense was. I know 71 targets isn't anything to really,
So.
wow anyone, but it surprised me for whatever reason. He did have 54 receptions. A stat I really like is he had 9 red zone receptions, which was ranked 13th among wide receivers. And again, let's go back. This is on 59% snap share.
That's surprising to me.
Yes. He had 7 touchdowns, which ranked 13th overall. Yes, Mark Andrews is there. Aside from Mark Andrews, essentially no competition when it comes to the wide receivers. Boykin, he is an athletic freak. I could see him being a guy that maybe puts up a high touchdown number, but not many receptions and yards, maybe. But that's really reaching for him. I do like the rookies they brought in, but Marquise Brown was drafted to be the wide receiver 1 in this offense. He's not just a burner. But with that being said, the guy has jets. So good luck covering this guy. Good luck. Mark Andrews, this past season, when he more or less put his name on the map, he had a 43.2% snap share. And I know it's real easy to think that with the departure of Hayden Hurst that's just going to skyrocket. I personally don't believe that. I believe that they're going to be smart with Mark Andrews, because by no means is he a blocking tight end. By no means. They have Nick Boyle for that. So I see Mark Andrews probably right around a 50, maybe 60% snap share. But I do expect Marquise Brown's snap share to increase significantly, like up in the 90s. And with that being said, this guy absolutely has Tyreek Hill upside, if his snap share as well as his targets increase, which I absolutely expect to happen. Marquise Brown, who doesn't see this breakout? Grab him before your opponents do. Go get him.
Yeah, I actually agree with you 100% here. And looking at this roster, I had a feeling you were going to pick him too. You know, I guess you could make a case for Miles Boykin, but I just haven't seen anything that screams breakout, breakout to me. So Marquise Brown is who it is for me too. And he dealt with some injuries last year. You mentioned the Liz Frank. So, you know, if you're not familiar with what that injury is, it requires surgery on your foot. And the reason it's so detrimental for offensive players is it really limits your explosiveness when you're coming back. Now, that being said, we saw Marquise Brown toast folks last year.
And I mean, the fact that he did what he did in that rookie year was so impressive. I mean, I would have never expected that. I personally thought the Ravens were a little crazy for drafting someone that high. If I'm not mistaken, I want to say he's the first wide receiver off the board, because typically those surgeries, they really, when it comes to developing especially wide receivers coming into the pros, that's a major setback and hurdle to overcome. And just seeing those flashes in season one, it was just like, wow. So I can only imagine what we're about to see coming into his second season.
Yeah, and I think he definitely established himself even in his shortened rookie season as the number one wide receiver for that offense, anyways, in terms of targets. And it's a big third down. Who are we going to go to? It was probably going to be Mark Andrews or Marquise Brown. Now, that being said, I'm not really expecting him to be a consistent wide receiver one week in and week out, because you kind of compared him to Tyreek Hill. When I watch Marquise Brown, the speed and athleticism definitely there, but Tyreek Hill's got some pit bull in him, man. He's a dog. He'll go up and fight for it. I just don't see that type of attitude with Marquise Brown. Not to say he's not a good player still, a great player still. I just don't see that type of playmaking ability for him. But I mean, at the price, I love the upside that you're drafting here, especially if he's going to be like your wide receiver 3 or your wide receiver 4. Some of these boom bust weeks that we're looking at, I think he's going to be kind of a boom bust guy. Maybe think like early career Deshaun Jackson. But that being said, he may only need 3 catches to get you 30 points in any given game. The Ravens run the crap out of the ball and play action over the top. If you hesitate at all, Marquise Brown is gone. So, 2 catches for 120 yards and 2 touchdowns. Shoot, I'll take that any day. But that's kind of what I see for him.
Yeah. And one thing I wanted to mention, and I did have to pull it up here really quickly. So taking a look at Matt Harmon's reception perception, I'm not going to say he's the most polished route runner, but Brown's 73.6% success rate versus man coverage does put him at the 83rd percentile. And that's in some very exciting company right there. A better route runner than you probably expect him to be. Let's just leave it at that.
I think a lot of folks here like, oh, he's blazing fast. He can run the fly route. He can run the post route, right? That's kind of, I think that's kind of everyone's go-to thought when you hear fast guy.
And granted, we do have to remember he's running these routes throughout his entire rookie season coming off of that surgery. So, I don't know, for all y'all people that are big on social media, it won't be hard to find a video of Lamar working out with him. And I'm telling you, I've seen a few, and ooh-wee, those routes are looking crisp and his speed.
What if he's faster this year?
He very well may be, because I didn't even think it was Marquise Brown when I was watching. I was like, who is that? Is that Tyreek Hill? This is just from a distance, and then it zoomed up on him, and I heard Lamar or whoever it was that was throwing routes with them say Marquise, and I was like, oh snap. I'm telling you, like, there's videos all over social media of him, and granted, there's no defenders on the field. Yeah, I get that. But just watch how fast and how crisp those routes are. It's extremely impressive for such a young guy. And then, any team that plays Baltimore, can you focus on Marquise Brown and stop it? No, you can't.
You got to
No,
stack
you
the box.
can't.
You got to spy the QB.
The run game, he is going to be open for so many deep passes. He could possibly set some records this year. Like, in all seriousness, he absolutely could. If Lamar Jackson replicates what he did last season when it comes to both rushing and passing, I don't even know what to think, but all signs point up for Marquise Brown. Let's just leave it at that. Make sure you get this guy.
I know this. It's a great time to be a football fan and a fan of offense, especially.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You want to move us on to the next team here, Patrick? I'll let you start this next one.
Yeah, I'll let you call the team. What team you want to go with?
All right, let's go with the Bengals. I'm pretty excited. Well, I'm excited about all these guys, but I'm pretty excited about some of the research I did for this guy I've got for the Bengals here.
Okay. Yeah, I'm excited for the Bengals too. And yeah, I'm excited. Let's do it. So, breakout candidate, Cincinnati Bengals, however you want to say it. I still don't know what's correct.
I used to call them the Bungles.
That works too. No disrespect to the Bengals fans. Treyveon Williams. Yep.
That's spicy.
Treyveon Williams is my breakout candidate. Let that sink in. I know it's a lot.
Getting hot in here.
Deep breaths. Okay, let's go. So he's going pick 284. That's the middle of the 24th round. In other words, in these 12-team leagues, especially if you have a kicker, do not pick a kicker. Use that last pick on Treyveon Williams. If you need to, you can drop him or someone else right before the game starts and get a kicker. Don't fall for, I got to fill the kicker spot. Anyway, moving right along.
Shouldn't even have a kicker.
That's a whole nother episode, but I agree completely. If you do have a kicker spot, don't waste it in the draft. Moving on, though. So let's start with Joe Mixon. Love the talent. Red flags, though. More than one. Not only is he a potential holdout candidate, the off the field issues, that's what really concerns me. And what, I'm in a league where you have the option to keep two keepers. I do have Joe Mixon that I acquired in a trade the prior season. And although it's tempting, depending on when we do the draft, I likely will not keep him. And we're going to fly through these. I don't want the focus to be on off the field issues. People make mistakes. But unfortunately, when you're a professional athlete and you have a history such as him, these things do have to be taken into account. So real quick, going all the way back to high school, he got into a quote-unquote scuffle with another player and got ejected from a game. Not too bad.
Happens.
Also in high school, he allegedly threw a female to the ground, then hit her. charges eventually were dismissed. I do want to make that clear. But man, that's not something that you want to get accused of by any means. Now let's jump forward to July of 2014. And this I know happened because it was actually captured on video. He punched a woman in the face, which resulted in breaking 4 bones. And then he finally apologized just before finding out that the video was going to be released to the public. So what I've mentioned alone not only hurts my heart to hear, but makes me terrified that he's not, at any moment, he could do something really stupid and his career could be over. For anyone who follows him on social media, and I'm not even a big social media person, I'm trying to get better, but anyone who's on social media, any night, really, weekends more so, but any night, if you go to his page, he is, I'd say half the time live, just partying it up, you know, making it very clear that he is having a good time, and it doesn't seem like football is his number one priority. I'll just leave it at that. Moving on from that. Giovanni Bernard. So his stats from the previous 2 seasons. Last year, 53 rushes, 170 yards, 3.2 yards per carry, 43 targets, 30 receptions, 234 yards. 2018, 56 rushes, 211 yards, 3.8 yards per carry, 48 targets, 35 receptions, 218 yards.
Nothing
do
to
you
write home
want
about.
that? I don't. That's not even roster worthy to me. And then Rodney Anderson, I will say he's included in this depth chart, and early in college looked very promising. But let's look at his injury history.
Uh-oh.
In 2015, fractured fibula. 2016, fractured C5 vertebrae in his neck.
Oof.
2018, torn ACL in his right knee. 2019, which was actually his rookie year in the NFL, tore the ACL in his right knee a second time.
Ugh.
If Mixon holds out, gets injured, or has any type of off-field issue, which leads to suspensions of any sort, I'm pretty confident that Treyveon Williams is taking over that role. Another thing that I find really interesting, a gentleman named Jim Turner, who was actually the offensive line coach during Williams' 3 years at Texas A&M, is currently the Cincinnati Bengals offensive line coach. Ironic, right?
Familiarity with the blocking schemes. That's a plus.
There you go. Treyveon Williams led the SEC in rushing yards during the 2018 regular season. He had 1,524 rushing yards and 15 touchdowns.
Whew.
That same year, when they matched up with NC State in the Gator Bowl, 18 carries, 236 yards, 3 touchdowns.
Ooh.
Again, Joe Mixon, assuming no holdout, no off-field issues, and he stays healthy, he's the man. Anything at all happens to him, Treyveon Williams is taking over that role. And I actually just took him pretty late in a dynasty draft. And if he's there at the end of redrafts, I'll probably keep taking him. So, you know, say what you want in the comments. Bring the hate. I love that too. It motivates. But you heard it here first. Treyveon Williams, you know, if something happens, that's a league-winning pick. That it really, really is. So, you know, for anyone that's still playing with kickers, do not draft a kicker. Draft Treyveon Williams and at least wait and see, especially if the holdout is looking more likely with Mixon. It could very well win you the league.
We could have a James Conner situation where everyone drafted James Conner a couple days before the season started, and then he said, "Psych, I'm not playing."
Exactly. That's what I did in your league a couple years ago, and I won't even brag, but we all know what the end result of that was. So
Yeah.
But Treyveon Williams, that last pick, grab him. You know, I don't care how deep your league is. 10 teams or more, make sure you grab them at the end of the draft. Plain and simple.
Yeah, man. You bring up some good points. I will be honest, I don't know much about Treyveon Williams, but color me intrigued. I didn't know all that about Anderson's injury history. I thought he was a thing, but after hearing, you know, back injuries, same ACL twice, I'm out. I don't want any part of that. Even if he's ahead of Williams on the depth chart, how long before Williams just overtakes him if they have to share a load, like, you know, and to lead the SEC in rushing, I'm definitely about to look into him. So you might find it a little harder to take him at the end of the draft if we're in the same one now.
Yeah, well, I'm glad we did this after I grabbed him in our current draft, so I'll take that. But a couple other things I want to mention is they already have Treyveon listed ahead of Rodney Anderson in the depth chart, and they've made it very, very clear that as an organization, they are going to be extremely cautious with Anderson's rehab. So I don't think he's a factor this year, period. I just don't.
That's good stuff, man.
In addition, I don't remember the specific beat writer, but someone who's, you know, a common beat writer around Cincinnati Bengals, they did say that more or less, they said Giovanni Bernard could likely be a cap casualty because they would save, I believe, $2.5 million by releasing him. I'm not sure if, you know, I don't know if that deadline has passed by now. If it has, then, but either way, I mean, you heard the numbers he put up, not just last year, but the year before. I mean, the guy is aging at this point. He's not what he, I think he's like
not
29.
the same Gio that came out of North Carolina way back in the day.
No, he's Treyveon Williams, to me, even if Gio's still on the roster, Treyveon is immediately going ahead of him.
Yeah,
especially
they've
with
shown
the connection with that offensive line coach. Like,
I mean, I don't know how big Treyveon is, but I assume he's a pretty good size back if he led the SEC in rushing. So, you know, the Bengals have shown time and again that they don't really trust Gio Bernard to be a 3-down back, especially down 1 and 2 between the tackles. So, you know, I think it's easy. I love this. I love this take.
Yeah, and then, you know, one more thing, just some icing on the cake. That same year that he led the SEC in rushing, he did have 27 receptions on 39 targets.
That's
great
running
for
college.
Back,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
does it say what his target share was? What was his target share? Not there.
It shows it for the pass game, but, you know, it's very small.
Yeah. I was just looking for, you know, like the season.
Don't have it in front of me. I'll see if I can find it. If not, maybe we can throw that in the description.
Yeah, 2018 Texas A&M. I think I got it here. 8.8. Not crazy good. About average, but the totals, the reception totals and the receiving yards, but especially the reception number is that bodes well for a 3-down role in the league in the NFL.
Yeah. I mean, when you're averaging 6.5 yards per carry in the SEC and also have 27 receptions on top.
For about 10 yards of reception.
Exactly. I mean, there's a lot to be said here. You know,
I like it.
It just seems to be a forgotten guy, but
I totally forgot about him. So
for
guilty.
all of y'all listening, you'll thank me later. Another one of those into the draft picks. I mean, worst case scenario, everything goes perfect for Mixon, you cut him, you move on. But with all those red flags we discussed, this is someone that last pick, it could very well win you the whole league. It really could.
I like it, man. I like it. It's going to be tough to top that with what I got. I know I said I was excited about my guy, but that was a spicy take, and it turned out I like the spice. So great job there, man. Nice deep dive. My guy though is Tyler Boyd, going around pick 85 right now. You know, that's pretty deep as far as wide receivers go. He finished as wide receivers 18 and 17 the last 2 seasons, though. So I kind of feel like he's being undervalued, big time right now. He's got second-round draft capital. He has a 92 percentile breakout rating, an 86 percentile dominator rating, which means he broke out early. He showed that he was good early, and he's, in the top 86 percentile as far as he's going to physically dominate when he's on the field. So that's kind of his physical and just some overall stats about him. Where it gets really interesting to me is when you start looking at his reception totals, especially working out of the slot. There's no bones about it. He's a slot receiver. He's not going to play the X receiver for you. But that's not necessarily a bad thing on this Bengals team. So last year he was tied for 11th in receptions, and that was with 3 games with Ryan Finley playing quarterback. So, there was 3 games where a guy who is probably on the bubble of the league as far as talent was throwing the ball. He still finished 11th. Now, he was also 7th in targets last year. He averages 9.2 targets a game. He gets 10 looks a game. He gets 10 chances to do something a game. That's absurd to me. Because that's his average. So that means that there's some where he's seeing probably like 15, 16, 17 targets, and that's absurd. Now, he also, out of the slot in 2019, last year, had the 6th most receptions. So out of all slot receivers, he was the 6th most. Now, since what year was it? Since 2018, I think that's when he entered the league, I believe. He leads all players since 2018 in receiving yards from the slot. So he's a young player, and since he's come in the league, he's basically led the league in slot receiving yards. Gotta love that. That's proven talent to me. Now, yeah. Here's where it gets even more interesting, right? Andy Dalton's gone. Not that I think Andy Dalton was a bad quarterback necessarily. We've got Joe Burrow here now, though. Now, Joe Burrow, at least last year, I think this is going to be huge for Boyd because last year, now granted this was in LSU, this was in college, but Joe Burrow threw to the slot a lot. Example, Justin Jefferson, right? 56% of Joe Burrow's passing yards last year went to the slot, and he had 35 touchdown passes to a slot receiver. 30, he threw 60, whatever. Okay, so 35 was by far the best. The next closest quarterback didn't even top 20 to the slot.
Man, hell of a year.
I mean, historic year for Joe Burrow. Man, how great would it have been if he got to join Joe Brady in Carolina? That's neither here nor there, though.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought. We'll
Yeah,
save that for another episode, though. But
yeah,
I'm gonna jot that down.
um, so yeah, all that stuff tells me that Tyler Boyd, even though he has a rookie quarterback, and I'm gonna be a wet blanket on my own take here. It's extremely rare, if not non-existent, that a rookie quarterback provides 1,000-yard receiver. I think Tyler Boyd and Joe Burrow have the chance to do it because you're not expecting them to be a stout defense. They're going to be behind a lot. I mean, I'm expecting 600 plus pass attempts. I think they're going to have to throw the ball a ton. So for me, Tyler Boyd, you got to get him, especially where he's going. Like I would reach for Tyler Boyd.
Oh yeah, same.
And not even hesitate. Like 2 full rounds probably. Like
yeah,
I would take him early.
The thing about Tyler Boyd, and this is just my personal take, but Tyler Boyd to me is low key one of the best wide receiver 2s in the league. Yeah. That's just how I feel.
100%.
And we'll see how things play out with AJ Green, but either way, he showed last season that he can produce without him. He was somehow even better with him. T. Higgins is hopefully sooner or later plugging right in. So either way you slice it, I don't see why there's not more hype around Boyd personally, but that's good for us, right?
Yeah, and especially in Dynasty. If you're in a Dynasty startup, being tied to, I mean, obviously we haven't seen Joe Burrow play a down in the NFL. But I don't think there's definitely some people out there. I've seen it, but I don't think many people are out there saying or predicting Joe Burrow to be a bust.
I hope not.
I think we can at least expect him to be Andy Dalton, right? And Andy Dalton, he was pretty good for AJ Green's
career. To be a bust. Prediction. Mark this so we can come back and show it next year.
Oh, we'll have to talk about that later.
Tua bust central. Moving on. Sorry, bro. You made me think of it, and I've thought it for so long. I just want to put it out there in the air. No disrespect to him. He's not going to be able to stay healthy. So I guess it depends on your definition of bust, but he's
can't deny the talent, dude.
He will not be able to stay healthy. Okay, I'll take the word bust away because maybe that's not fair, but he will not be able to stay healthy.
All right. I'll allow that. I'll allow that one. We'll definitely talk about that on a later episode. I'd love to do a rookie episode, but we spent a lot of time on the Bengals here, so let's move on to the Browns. And I guess I'll get us kicked off here since I brought them up. The Cleveland Browns, for me, a guy that I think is going to outperform his ADP, even if everything stays the same and everyone around him is healthy, is Kareem Hunt.
Oh yeah, I'm all about me some Kareem Hunt.
So when I pulled these data points, which was about a week and a half ago, he was going 74th overall and about RB 33. And to me, that's a steal. Because
especially in PPR.
Oh, especially in PPR. If you're playing in standard, I mean, I honestly don't even look at standard stuff. So
I'm hoping no one still does, but I keep seeing rankings posted.
There's a diehard group out there.
Yeah, I guess there's some dinosaurs that are still hanging out, but
for sure,
each their own.
For me, got to have some sort of form of PPR, and that's one of the reasons I love Hunt. Right. So he's going after some of the guys like Antonio Gibson. I've seen him go before Zach Moss, before Keyshawn Vaughn, all these rookies who have never played a down in the league. We're talking about a guy who was the league's leading rusher. 2 years ago? Maybe it was 3 now? Fairly recently. And he's young still. I believe he's 25. So you know,
Yep.
recently, yeah,
About to
25,
turn 25. I'm
about to be
showing
25.
24.9.
Yeah, so I mean, he is young. Now, if you follow the Browns organization on Twitter, there has been some recent buzz about wide receivers coach Chad O'Shea talking about Kareem Hunt has been cross training with the wide receivers group to potentially play wide receiver 3 out of a slot.
Music to my ears.
Yeah, I'm gonna eat that up. Whether it happens or not, I guess is maybe this is just off-season buzz, but already with him finishing, as an RB2, if he gets that extra passing work, I'm all in on it. And in fact, honestly, I'm already all in on Kareem Hunt. Unless you snipe him from me, I'm leaving drafts with him. Uh, you know, Not only is he a great receiver, in just 8 games last year, he ranked third on the team in receptions. He only played 8 games, and he ranked third on the Browns in receptions. Now let's talk about his running ability, though, because that's actually, I think, he's a good receiver, but I think he's a great runner. Kareem Hunt, missed tackles forced per touch his rank in the last 4 years, so starting in 2016, this is per PFF. So in 2016, he was first out of 123. 2017, he was fourth out of 71. 2017, he was second out of 73. And then 2018, he was first out of 75. Couldn't find the 2019 numbers, but I'm pretty confident he's going to be in the top 5 because he's never finished lower than 4 in missed tackles forced per touch. So he's forcing people to not tackle him. And I love that because that just means extra yards. Now, we talked about him being a PPR monster, right? Or we alluded to it. So he averaged 11.3 PPR points a game last year. And that was good for RB 28. He's being drafted as RB 33. So, technically he's going right about where he finished last year. But we've now added Kevin Stefanski to the mix, which means I think the Browns are going to run a lot more than they pass, which probably means more opportunity for Kareem Hunt. So I think Kareem Hunt
Absolutely.
I think he's got top 7 upside. I think he's a lock to be an RB2, but he's got top 7 upside, especially if Nick Chubb misses any time. Oh, man. Hunt is an automatic plug for a starting RB. Forget about flex. He's an automatic plug-in for a starting RB if Chubb misses any time at all.
Yeah, in PPR formats, should that happen, easy top 5.
Mm-hmm.
Easily. And remember, he played 8 games last year. Only
Right.
8.
And still was third in targets on the team.
Exactly. And I mean, based on the time he had to take away from football, unfortunately, low mileage. He's not someone like Derrick Henry. That's probably a bad example because prior to last year, Derrick Henry, not so much. But
usage.
You get what I'm saying. He doesn't have a ton of miles on
like
him.
Jonathan Taylor.
Exactly. He's going to be someone who probably has like a legit 4 to 5 prime years left, in my opinion.
For sure. And the last thing I'll say about him, because I loved this stat that I actually stole from Michelle at Ball Blast on Twitter. In the last 2 seasons, Hunt has scored lower than 10 PPR points in only 16% of games. So you can pretty much bank on 85% of Kareem Hunt's games, he's at least getting you 10 points. Put it in the bag, man. I'll take that every time, especially, for a flex.
Absolutely.
And where he's going. Yes, please. Sign me up for all the Kareem Hunt.
I agree. And like I was telling you before we started our recording, but just to give our audience some more background about us, we're currently in a dynasty draft. It does include IDP players. It's a 47-round draft. And I did something that I don't think I've ever done before. I may have done it once a long time ago. Anyway, basically went 0 RB for whatever reason. The scoring's crazy. We won't get into the details. But in the 6th round, I took my first running back, Chris Carson. And in my mind, I'm thinking I'm going to get to pick between Kareem Hunt and Darius Geis on the way back. And I'm sitting there like going back and forth, and it's a no time limit. So I have plenty of time to make a final decision, but I'm so excited to get one of these guys. And this man, Dustin, who had traded up and to get 2 picks ahead of me, took both of them.
They were also my first and second running backs because I also, for some inexplicable reason, decided to do what I never do and go 0 RB. So Kareem Hunt and Darius Geis were my first 2 RBs as well. That's been a crazy fun draft, and I think maybe we should do an episode on it.
Oh, most definitely. It's funny how we kind of keep stealing each other's picks, but
funny or frustrating?
A little bit of both. A little bit of both, but I mean, as long as we're both on to what we're saying, then I think both of our teams will be good moving forward. For sure. So we can always work out some trades, bro.
Yeah, we could. I might have to hit you up for some Rojo. But yeah, that's my dude, Kareem Hunt at ADP. I think he's a lock, a steal. He's being drafted at his floor, in my opinion. So that's my dude. Who you got, man?
Yeah, but just to emphasize, I agree. Kareem Hunt, he's going to have a much bigger role. We saw what happened to Chubb's production once Hunt came back and got involved. It dipped down. And I'm not down on Chubb. I love the talent. For Chubb's sake, I hope Hunt ends up signing elsewhere after this season.
I think he will.
But you never know. But with Stefanski there, I could see both of them thriving. So I just look at Hunt as the cheaper option with the PPR upside. So smash. My breakout candidate. And, man, this guy, I've been drafting this guy in fantasy – I want to say since his sophomore year, Jarvis Landry. Pick 92, 12-team leagues. That's a mid-8th, wide receiver 33. And I just don't get this. I don't get it because, I don't remember what his rookie year numbers were, but we can throw that aside. I know he had somewhat of a down year when he made that transition to Cleveland, but it wasn't bad. This guy is the king of consistency. I mean, yes, he's recovering from hip surgery. He is very adamant that he expects to be ready for week 1. We'll see. I know the organization, quote unquote, remains optimistic about his week 1 status. But the fact that in his 6 NFL seasons, he has not once missed a game, I wouldn't be surprised to see him out there week 1. Some people, when it comes to just body types and genetics, so on and so forth, some people just recover from injuries much quicker than others, and he just seems to fall into that category. In fact, Landry publicly stated that he played 75 to 80% healthy throughout the 2019 season. And let's look at what he produced in that season. 83 receptions, 1,174 yards, and 6 touchdowns on 138 targets. And what's real interesting is everyone was excited, as always, for Odell Beckham Jr. Landry had more targets, more receptions, more yards, and more touchdowns than Odell Beckham Jr. And for some reason, Odell is projected, I don't know, like a top 10, top 12 wide receiver. And here Landry's sitting wide receiver 33. What a steal. So my last point here, let's take all 6 seasons for Jarvis Landry, including the tough rookie season and including that tough transition from Miami to Cleveland. All 6 of them, and we'll average it out. So on average, 143 targets for 94 receptions for just over 1,000 yards and 5 touchdowns. That's his average in a 6-year career. I mean, and when you talk about a solid floor, if you're playing PPR, get this guy. In fact, if it turns out that he ends up missing week 1, week 2, maybe week 3, his ADP is going to dip even further, and then it's even more of a steal. Now, if anything comes up where, for whatever reason, he's put on the PUP list, all of this changes, I can only go off of what's being reported as of today. But the final stat I'm going to leave you with, and this, I didn't even realize this, and I'm a Jarvis guy. I did not realize this. His career rushing stats, 30 rushes, 189 yards, 6.3 yards per carry, and 2 touchdowns. I didn't even realize the guy ever rushed the ball, to be honest. But you sprinkle that in, and you got a guy in PPR leagues that's as safe of a floor as you're going to find. And then apparently every once in a blue moon, he's going to throw in some rushing yards for you. And he's never missed an NFL game in 6 years. So getting him in the mid-8th? Smash. Jarvis Landry. Go get him.
Yeah, man, you're definitely a pound the table for Jarvis Landry guy, and I love it. I agree. Like he's always undervalued every single year.
Always.
Now, I do love Odell. They were both playing hurt last year. Just throwing that out there. But the only thing that worries me about both the receivers in Cleveland is we kind of talked about it when I talked about Hunt. They're going to run the ball more. I think their pass volume goes down, but I also think their pass efficiency goes up. So maybe it's negligible. Maybe we see less targets, less receptions, more yardage, more run after catch, more touchdowns. We'll just have to wait and see. I think this is the first time Stefanski's really going to be able to implement his very own offense. So maybe it's not as run heavy as we think. Maybe he's more of a Kubiak style guy, where he likes to do a lot of play action, a lot of bootlegs. We'll find out. Either way, I think that offense is going to be fun to watch. They brought in a lot of good coaches over the off season, and I really hope that the Browns at this point have finally made the right moves to kind of turn their franchise around. We've been making fun of them for far too long.
I agree. And I somewhat low-key root for the Browns, just because my employer's headquarters is in Cleveland, as you know, Dustin. Personally, when they didn't draft Saquon Barkley, I pretty much just threw them to the side. You don't pass on Saquon Barkley. Doesn't take a genius. But that's another story. Sorry, y'all, I keep getting sidetracked. I'm a little enthusiastic today. It's been a great day.
It's because we waited too long to record this episode.
Exactly. But some real quick noteworthy stats, because I have it in front of me.
Let's hear it.
So, red zone receptions last season. Odell Beckham Jr., 5. Jarvis Landry, 12. Drops. Odell Beckham Jr. tied for first, 11. Jarvis Landry had 1. I mean, I can go on and on and on and just pick them apart, but the fact that I get it. Odell Beckham Jr. had a catch of a lifetime and 2, maybe 3 really, really good seasons. But again, that was back in New York where he was just the only guy. And then he's either hurt or, say what he want. I know Jarvis played through injury too. A lot of players do. It's just people keep chasing those points that he put up early in his career, and I just don't understand. I mean, I can understand drafting a player on upside, but when I'm seeing Odell Beckham Jr. go in the second round, where last year the first round potentially, but even now still in like the second round, and you can get Jarvis Landry in the middle of the 8th when he's just out producing him over the past few years. I don't get it. I really
For sure.
don't.
I mean, as much as I love Odell, I can't make myself take him in the second round. He has to fall to me to take him, but I do love him. And a sports hernia is tough to play with. So I've kind of given him the benefit of the doubt as far as last season and his less than expected numbers. Because I mean, this will be the telling year, I think.
We'll find out, but I'm done on Odell. Maybe there's a prayer that somehow, some way he gets rejuvenated and just has another incredible year. He would have to fall to at least the 6 for me to even think about it. And I know for a lot of people that sounds like I'm stupid, and maybe so. He's either hurt or just not doing what a wide receiver one should do. And maybe this is his year. I just don't trust him, period. When's the last time he's had a good season? How many years has it been?
I think it's been 2.
I
I guess we would have to define good season, right?
I remember, and I wish I can remember who shared this with me. The last time Odell Beckham Jr. was a wide receiver 1, Jordy Nelson was a wide receiver 1, and Michael Crabtree was also a wide receiver 1. So if that helps you, don't chase the past. It's gone. Don't do it to yourself.
Definitely don't want to chase points. That's for sure.
All right. That was fun.
Yeah, some good debates there.
Oh, yeah.
So I think next we got the old Pittsburgh Steelers. That'll wrap us up for the AFC North.
Right on. Pittsburgh Steelers, breakout candidate. Probably not much of a surprise. I know he's getting a lot of hype around the community, but still, Diontae Johnson. I checked this ADP today, and I don't believe it. Pick 109, early 10th round, wide receiver 40. I mean, that's not happening in the leagues we play in. I know that much, but so let's start from the top. I know everyone is real high on Juju, or most still are real high on Juju. And yes, Ben Roethlisberger was out of the picture, which changed a lot. All of that fact. I just don't think Juju is the wide receiver 1 on this team anymore. And maybe that's a bold take, but seeing as how they played last season, Diontae Johnson looked as if he was taking over essentially that Antonio Brown role. One thing that I found extremely shocking is Diontae Johnson. He had a 66.9% snap share last season, only 7.9% in the slot. He ranked number 1 overall in target separation. How? Playing on the outside and he's ranked number 1?
Yeah.
You would think
He's
there
good.
would be like 25 slot receivers just automatically ahead of him, because working out of the slot, it's a whole, anyone that knows football, it's much easier to get separation in the slot versus playing outside. But that blew my mind. And, I feel like a lot of people are just like, well, we got to throw last season out the door. Big Ben wasn't there. Juju will be fine. Well, you say that, and it's like, are you also throwing out what Diontae Johnson did just because Big Ben wasn't there? I mean, Diontae Johnson played with the same quarterbacks. I mean, I'm not going to act like he had a spectacular season, but when you're playing with Mason Rudolph and
Duck Hodges,
whoever, I mean, Diontae Johnson appeared to be the best wide receiver on the team with terrible quarterback play. That's that. Juju had a 79% snap share, 59% in the slot. He ranked 68th in target separation, which is absolutely terrible for a slot receiver. For Juju's sake, I'm hoping that the injuries that he dealt with had something to do with that. But even with that being said, Diontae Johnson played at a high level with some bottom feeder quarterbacks last season. So to just throw it out the window for Juju and act like, oh, no big deal, Big Ben's back, I'm not treating it the same with Diontae. I could easily see Diontae and Juju having very similar seasons. I could even see Diontae having a better season based on what I saw last season. So, in other words, I would much rather wait and take Diontae Johnson in the 10th round than Juju, and I'm assuming probably still the third or fourth, even after just such a terrible year. Diontae Johnson. This one's easy, y'all. The breakout's coming. Stay woke. Go get him.
Yeah, I'm going to pile on because you probably know this, Patrick. I love Diontae Johnson. I was drafting him everywhere last year as a rookie. Loved taking him super late in startups. He to me, when the Steelers drafted him, because they typically know what they're doing at wide receiver, when the Steelers drafted him, I immediately thought to myself after watching some film, like, this kid can ball and he's going to get some playing time this year. And sure enough, he did. What surprised me was that, I guess it shouldn't have surprised me because Juju works a lot out of the slot. But it did surprise me that he saw the success and got all the snaps as an outside receiver. And the fact that he was successful at an outside receiver role with guys like Mason Rudolph has only fanned the flames for me. I want Diontae Johnson wherever I can get him. I do think that because he's been successful in the outside role, that he and Juju can coexist, but it is going to require a good quarterback like Ben Roethlisberger to be there for the full season. So, what I like about it is that he did show us that he can produce with terrible guys under center and playing the outside role, not having to fight with Juju for the slot. So, especially in Dynasty, but I think in redraft he's worth a pick this year too. I love me some Diontae Johnson.
Yeah,
for sure.
And I mean, it's hard enough coming in as a rookie wide receiver, but when you're playing with some of the worst quarterback play in the whole league as a rookie, and you still had an above average season, and outplayed someone who was probably like a top 4 to 5 wide receiver pick that year. I mean, extremely impressive.
For sure. Absolutely agree. So I love that pick. My guy, I'm going to go to the backfield and talk a little bit about James Conner. He is falling to about RB25 right now. And I say falling, that's still fairly high. But let's not forget, a year ago, we were drafting this guy in the first round. He was a first round RB last year. And that's because Tomlin has shown that when Connor's healthy, he wants to use Connor as a workhorse back. That's Tomlin's thing. He gets his guy and he gives them as many touches as they can stomach, and then some more. So, if he's healthy, he's getting all the work. And when he's healthy, he produces, right? So average points per game in 2019. Now, keep in mind, he was dealing with a knee sprain, an ankle sprain, a quad strain, an AC joint sprain, and a quad contusion, all at different points of the season.
Jeez.
However, average points per game, he still managed 14.6. It's pretty good. Your boy Mixon that you were just talking about that everybody seems to love, you know how many he averaged? 14.1. Not a huge difference, but for the price, that's a big difference.
I mean, that's a
now
good
this
find right there. That's a good find.
This is yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's a good find, because as soon as you brought up fantasy points per game, I brought it up myself, and that's, when he's up there with some of those running backs going in the first round, and anyone can get injured. He did deal with several last season. He did still play 10 games, so it wasn't just, a disaster. But when he was on the field, he was helping your team for sure.
And maybe this is his last season in Pittsburgh, right? So do they have the use him up approach, right? So if he manages to stay healthy, they're just like, man, we're going to feed this guy until we can't feed him no more. Maybe. So I like that. Last year, he averaged 4 yards a carry, 2.3 yards after contact, and also 3.5 receptions a game. So, not the best stats there, but it helps you in PPR. I'll take 4 yards a carry from my back. I like that. Obviously the biggest concern here is just his injury history, and you may have to protect yourself with a contingency pick, a handcuff, if you will. But if he stays healthy, he's got huge upside. Now, to kind of piggyback on that, he has never played more than 14 games in a season. So it's not looking great for him to finish the season. But in 2018, he played in 13 and still finished as RB6 in PPR formats. So, again, I'm not a fan of handcuffs, but if you're going to take Connor, I think you have to protect yourself with a guy named Anthony McFarland, who the Pittsburgh Steelers drafted this year with the 18th pick in the 4th round. He is a running back out of Maryland. Some will refer to him as a smaller speed guy. I do think he could play like a Willie Parker role in this defense. If you're new to football, Willie Parker a few years back had some phenomenal seasons with Mike Tomlin, and man, could he run. He was fast. Anthony McFarland, also very, very fast. 5'8", 208 pounds. So I'm not concerned about how short he is, with air quotes here.
Makes him harder to tackle.
Yeah, 210 pounds is a good size. He's going to get lost behind the line. Classic Maurice Jones-Drew type of thing.
Exactly.
And what really got me was his breakout age, right? So he broke out at age 20. His age 20 season at Maryland, he had 131 rush attempts, 1,034 yards, and 4 touchdowns. And he only had 7 receptions, 73 yards. The very next year, last year, Yeah, receptions, they're tough in college, but last year, his last year in college, he did see a dip, right? So he only had 614 rushing yards, but he did have 9 touchdowns and 17 receptions. So you may think, why are you high on a guy that had a dip in production? Well, if you look into it, he was actually injured the whole year and played one less game because of the injury. So he fought through a nasty ankle sprain. And, I know there's a lot of people out there who are going to go, oh, an ankle sprain. If you're saying that about an ankle sprain, you've never truly sprained your ankle.
Or
They're
you
nasty.
don't play sports.
Yeah, ankle sprains can be nasty. And he had one, but he played through it, and he played every single game except his very last one. And that was literally only because he finally got an MRI, and they said, hey, dude, you probably shouldn't be playing. So he sat out and started preparing for the draft. I like the way he profiles DeAndre Washington. Now, we're just talking about athletics. We're not talking about what type of player he is.
Yeah, this is just measurement, size, height,
speed, how far can you jump?
Yeah, exactly.
So what that's telling us, though, is that he's pretty dang athletic. We talked about Connor. I do like Connor if he's healthy. If Connor goes down, I think Anthony McFarland is going to be the guy who gets the most of the work. I'm not sure that he's going to be the 3 down fill-in guy like we saw. What was his name? Williams. What was his first name? Damian Williams? No. D'Angelo Williams. There we go.
Blast from the past, man.
Yeah, we saw D'Angelo Williams
back like that. Yeah,
right a few years ago. He filled in as Pittsburgh's backup running back. He filled in as a 3 down back when the first guy went down. Can't even remember who that was at this point. Might have been Connor.
That's when Le'Veon held out.
Oh, you're right. That's when Le'Veon held out, and Damian. Dang it, I'm going to say it again. D'Angelo Williams had a fantastic year. He was a 3 down back. I don't know that Anthony McFarland's going to be a 3 down back, especially in his rookie year. And they have Jalen Samuels, who's a great pass catcher. But I think he sees a majority of the work if Connor goes down. So I've said before, I'm not a fan of handcuffs. But if I find myself with Connor on my team, I'm going to make it a point to get McFarland. So I just wanted to throw that in. And he's basically free. RB51 going at 166. It's kind of like Treyveon Williams. You can probably wait and just spend your last pick of the draft on him. And you might have to hold him on a roster spot if you've got taxi squads. That's amazing. But I like James Conner as a breakout candidate based on his ADP. But again, got to protect yourself with Anthony McFarland, in my opinion. And that's coming from a guy who doesn't believe in handcuffs.
Words out my mouth. For anyone that knows Dustin, if you hear him mention anything about you should get this handcuff, that means pay attention, because that does not come out of his mouth, I don't know, ever.
Yeah, I'm not a handcuff guy.
Exclusive Fantasy Philosophers today. Man, slightly off topic, but I'm trying to remember, how did D'Angelo have that opportunity? Because didn't Le'Veon sit out and then James Conner took over? What was the D'Angelo year?
Yeah, I don't know.
Cannot remember.
It's escaping me. Let's see, D'Angelo Williams.
Did Bell get hurt? And for all of y'all viewers, I'm sorry, it probably doesn't matter, but hopefully some of y'all are at least curious like we are. So we're going to see if we can figure this out.
Let's see. He's
a little time gap there.
I don't know, man. I can't find it. D'Angelo Williams. It would be helpful if I knew what year it was. Let's see. D'Angelo Williams plays his first game as a Steeler. No date. Well, we might have to update on a later episode, but yeah, I'm definitely going to have to take a look at it, because that was one of my favorite years to watch D. Willie. I was a big time fan of D. Willie when he was when he was on the Panthers, but he was always in that timeshare with Jonathan Stewart. And so I just absolutely loved seeing him kind of in the twilight of his career, be able to kind of ball out with the Steelers. It was 2015.
Oh, yep. Le'Veon only played 6 games that year.
Oh, that's when he tore his ACL, that nasty ACL tear. That's what it was. Mystery solved, folks. We got it.
Mystery solved, y'all.
We can sleep at night now.
Yep. So if you had any doubts, now y'all know.
Absolutely.
Now y'all know.
Well, hey, man, I think that's going to wrap us up for the NFC North. I just want to say you guys might have noticed I'm wearing my Scott Fishbowl shirt that I got in the mail today.
Flexing.
If you're unfamiliar with Scott, I didn't get in. I wish I could say that I did. Another year, another year that I'm not playing. But what I wanted to say was, if you're unfamiliar with Scott Fishbowl, give it a look. It's run by the one and only Scott Fish himself. It's a fantastic charity event. It links up with fantasycares.net, which, if you're unfamiliar with them, they're kind of like a Toys for Tots, or if you know what Andre Johnson does, where he takes kids to Toys R Us every Christmas and just buys them tons of presents. That's kind of what this is aimed at. The fantasy community bands together. Proceeds go to fantasycares.net. They buy a bunch of underprivileged children gifts for Christmas, so that they have things for Christmas. So check it out. Make a donation. Fantasy community is fantastic about this type of stuff. If you're unaware of that, get on Twitter, get in on the action, and get you a pretty sweet Scott Fishbowl shirt. Even if you're not playing, like I said, proceeds go to charity. So it's a win-win-win. Everyone wins. The shirts are sweet. It's a good cause. The kids win. Everybody wins.
Yeah, and shout out to Scott Fish for putting that on each and every year. Ironically, I just watched a recently recorded episode CBS Sports did, Fantasy Football Today, where they had Scott Fish on as a guest.
Nice.
So for anyone interested in learning more about Scott Fish or the Scott Fish Bowl, check out that episode. Maybe we can get that in the description as well.
Yeah, we'll link to fantasycares.net. And
it was cool for me because I'd always heard the name, but to finally, put a face and just kind of get to know him, for lack of a better phrase. It was really, really refreshing because, it's just obvious that this guy is just a great guy.
Yep.
He putting on all these things for charity, and he emphasized over and over, even if you don't want your charity going where we plan on having our charity money go, like, go put it where you feel it's most needed. So all about giving back, which is amazing, not only for the community but just for mankind at that. Great guy. Check it out. Shout out to everyone that's shown us love, viewed, subscribed, commented, liked. We're really trying to drive for some more comments. The first person to comment on this video and tell us exactly what you want as an episode from us once we complete the AFC breakouts, we will do that. And we'll even give you the option to join part of the episode.
Heyo.
First person, comment, make it very clear what exactly you want, fantasy football related, of course. And, not that you have to, but you will be invited to join us on that episode and contribute. So if you made it this far, smash the like, but more importantly, jump down to that comment, get in there, and then you'll be joining us once we get through the AFC breakouts. That's all for now. Stay tuned. Up next, AFC East.
See ya. Dope.
I wonder if anyone will actually do that.